Good day, everyone. Welcome back to our InBt152 lab class. So, today I will be giving you the first exercise, and it is entitled Finding Data on Compounds in the Chemical Literature. So, before I will give to you the the procedure and how to do your lab reports, I will be giving you a short discussion about the MSDS or the Material Safety Data Sheet. Okay, so are you familiar with this MSDS or Material Safety Data Sheets? So I think you are quite familiar with it because I assume that you have worked in the laboratory when it was not yet pandemic, no? So you have um, a little orientation about this. So I will just reinforce your knowledge about this material safety data sheets. So it is really important in the laboratory, and it should be always available in the laboratory because it will serve as a guide and as a warning to all the chemicals that you have to handle and how to handle it properly. Okay, so what do we need to know about this MSDS? Okay, what is a material safety data sheet or MSDS? So it is also uh, termed as safety data sheet or SDS or product safety data sheet. Okay, it is an integral part of product stewardship and workplace safety. Now, the purpose of MSDS is to provide workers and emergency personnel with procedures, okay, for handling or safely working with that substance, and includes information such as physical data, specifically the melting point, the boiling point of a chemical, the flash point, its toxicity, the health effects, first aid, the activity, storage, disposal, protective equipment, and spill handling procedures, and so on and so forth. So there are many informations that you've got to know on the MS that are already available in the MSDS. That is why it is really a must that when you have experiments to do, and then you have chemicals to work on for your experiment, you have to read this information. You have to acquire the MSDS, and you have to read this in order that you are familiar with the chemicals that you will be handling, so that you will know what not to do with the chemicals that you, and how to dispose that properly and how to handle it properly. If it's volatile, you have to go it with a fume hood, and you have to mix it with that. So that's the case of the MSDS. So it's really an integral part of the product stewardship and workplace safety. Okay, so this is the example of the first page of a material safety data sheet here. Okay, so as you can see that there is the general information, and then also the hazardous ingredients identity information. So let's discuss it one by one as we proceed. Okay, so the format of the MSDS can vary from source to source. So it depends on what company that you bought chemicals. So, and it also vary within a country depending on the national requirements. So it is prepared also by the manufacturer or the supplier of the material. Of course, it should be produced by the one who made it, okay, who really produced it in a large quantity. So that's you should get it from the manufacturer or supplier of the material. Some of the chemicals that you will receive, okay, when you purchase chemicals, they will they will include MSDS along with the packaging, along with the chemicals, of course, and that's a good thing that they have to do about it. And other suppliers, I think haven't I think I experienced that I have not received an MSDS when I was doing my thesis. And yeah, you just have to access it in the internet because there are many lots of MSDS in different companies. Okay. Another one is the user of a chemical in the laboratory must be acquainted. Okay, it should be the word acquainted with the MSDS of a chemical to prevent accidents and ensure safe practices. Okay, it's a prevention of the accident and in order to have safety in the laboratory. Okay, what do MSDS contain? So, um, it contains, first is the identification of the product. What is the name of the product? What is the chemical name of the product? What is the chemical structure of the product? So for example, let's have T-Pol aluminum cleaner. So it's a sales unit and stock code. Yes, the batch number and how it was produced. Okay, the address and contact detail of the supplier also. Yeah, it also contains a lot of information such as the composition or the information in the ingredients. Okay, so the CAS or the EINECS are the identification codes, so that there will be a tracing, if there will be unnecessary accidents, so the codes will be traced. Okay, you also have the risk traces from cheat data or and in the composition of the ingredients. So the T-Pol aluminum cleaner contains alcohol ethoxylate, which is less than 1%, and also phosphoric acid, which contains 50 to 30%. We also have benzotriazole, which is less than 1% also, and then the last one is the formaldehyde, which is less than 1%. Okay, so another one is that it also identifies the hazards, those known about when the product is used in the way the manufacturer intends. So it really gives you an information that if this chemical, the T-Pol, ano nga ba yun? T-Pol aluminum cleaner, it is irritating to eye and skin. Okay, and large amounts could be hazardous to aquatic environment. So it really says a lot of information of this about the safety and also the protection of the environment. So that's it. So and also it also contains first aid measures, of course. If if you are if if there is a spillage and it was contacted into your eyes, okay, you have to irrigate it with water 10 to 15 minutes. If it contacted with the skin, if you have to remove your gloves and wash. And then if there is ingestion that happened, you have to small sips. You have to sip small of water to drink, and then if you inhaled it, you have to go out and in order to breathe fresh air. Okay, so last one is to always check out the first aid information with your departmental first aider or safety services. Okay, so you get to have this information in the MSDS. Okay, so another information that MSDS is available is the firefighting measures. So it also says if the material is non-flammable or it is flammable. So you should stay away with fire because there are section of the laboratory that there is the stove, it is the oven is located there. So you have to store the material where there is no direct exposure to the heat, because if it's flammable, so it will cause fire. Okay, now if it is non-flammable, that's good too. Okay, so if involved in a fire, anyway, it may produce hydrogen fluoride, which is an acid gas. So these are the things that uh, we should not want to happen in the laboratory because it may cause accidents and fire. So it really takes a lot of it may cost us so much. So we have to be acquainted of all the firefighting measures of your chemical. Okay. So another one is the measures for spillage or accidental release. Such as, how about the spillage? You have to contain it with sand or earth. So beware of slipping hazard. Do not allow to go down the drain. So this chemical should not be discharged or discarded into the drains. Okay, it should be properly placed in a reagent bottle so that it will just be stored. Okay, and you will need to ensure that your environment stocks appropriate materials to deal with these incidents. Okay, so you can also have we'll also find the handling and how to handle and to store your chemicals. So store away from food. You have to close tightly your the containers in order, because if it is volatile, okay, it will cause inhalation and irritation into your lungs. So ganon. So it should be stay away from children, of course, when you are in the laboratory, no. So the children are barred from entering the lab room. And what if you have also chemicals in the house, of course, like the cleaning uh, reagents, no, when you have muriatic acid, when you have sodium hypochlorite, or your zone rocks. Okay, so it should be placed in a portion of, in an area of your house that your children or um your siblings cannot access. Okay, and that's how you have to uh, observe proper storage and handling. So it should be also placed in a temperature between 5 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius. And the shelf life also is stated, which could be 1 year or more. Okay, so in this case, so largely common sense information, but for some products, it could be more critical. Okay, so I think that since you are already familiar with the chemistry, and we really know how to handle other chemicals, but when we encounter newly bought chemicals or something that you just didn't yet handle in the lab, like in your house right now, so you have not to be confident that you already know that chemicals. You have to acquire information about it using the MSDs. Okay, so another thing is that it also contains exposure controls or personal protective equipment, just like PPE. So if it really recommends that you should wear PPE when you are handling the product, no? So like for example, HCl, hydrochloric acid. So you have to wear a goggles, wear goggles, gloves, and also you should do it in a fume hood because it's volatile and it's really can really irritate your skin and your lungs. Okay, there are standard safety signs denoting the need to wear gloves. Okay, so the face shield or the protective clothing. So, hindi na talaga bago sa mga scientist or mga RA na magsuot ng gloves, face shield, and protective clothing because they're already doing that every day in the lab. So, I think for me, I'm not that siguro I did adjust when it was pandemic na, at the onset of the pandemic, because you're always wearing mask, but then parang continuation lang siya that you're always wearing it, and because you're doing it, because I'm doing it in the lab always, because I'm handling such chemicals, and then also I'm handling also molecular reagents. I have to wear gloves, I have to wear lab coat, yeah, and mga other sorts of chemicals. So that is why it's really important to have this in the lab. Okay, so when you want to work in the lab someday, of course, you have to, it's a must and a protocol to wear gloves, facials, and protective clothing. Do not be confident that you are already familiar with how to handle your chemicals, okay? Because you do not know uh, what things will will happen in the lab, no? So there are many uncontrolled conditions that might happen. Okay, so it does not tell you what sort of gloves are appropriate, of course. So it doesn't recommend you in the MSDS what sort of gloves, but you would need to find this out by consulting a gloves manufacturer regarding the hazardous materials in the product. And usually naman, you have to wear vinyl products, vinyl gloves, iba-iba din yung mga surgical gloves sa hospitals, but usually it's vinyl. So may mga violet color, ganun. So it's really and important also to choose a right kind of gloves in handling your chemicals. Okay, so it also contains, of course, the physical and chemical properties, the appearance of your product, so that when you check your chemicals, of course, from time to time, so if it's really white in color, okay, so after 1 month, so now sa naman it became yellow, so maybe it is contaminated na. So you have to remember the appearance of your chemicals. Okay, so it also um, stated the pH or the acidity and alkalinity of the product. Okay, so it also denotes a flash point. It also state flash point and also the density. It's not flammable. You know? So one means it is more dense in the water. Okay, so ito din ang yeah, this is um, the table for they have a color variation there, color identification from red to violet, and it categorizes the in terms of a strong acid and strong alkali. So for substances with pH around 7, acidity and alkalinity are not generally a problem. But um, when you have ano na, 7 up, okay, a 7 down, strong acid and strong alkali, mga salt ammonia, ganon, mga liquid vein cleaner, caustic soda, so it's really became a problem. Okay, so you have to know that the category of your solutions. Another thing is that it also states the stability and reactivity of your product. And when it no stability concerns, now it won't go off. Now, it also gives you an information to avoid contact with strong oxidizers, chlorine and chlorine products, or the nasty gases possible. And also, it gives you information about contact with some alloys that may produce hydrogen. It may cause an explosion because of low pH. Okay, so there are many things such as another one is the toxicological information. So this is why it is included in the exercise, because this is the most important thing, because it may cause a toxicity in our skin, in our eyes, right? So it informs us of the toxicity that may cause when it is ingested or it is inhaled, you know. So irritating to organic tissues such as skin and eyes. If there's inhalation, it may cause irritation. If there is ingestion, there'll be irritation to mouth and digestive tract. Oh my gosh, it's a strong acid. So if there's an eye contact, it may also cause severe irritation and also irritation for skin contact. Okay, with the um, connected with first aid information here. So there is an information first aid information along with the toxicological information. So, but in some circumstances, it may also give details about the longer term problems when you are really um, chronically exposed to these chemicals, when you are really handling this in a daily basis. Okay, so um, later in the lecture, you will really know about acute toxicity and the chronic toxicity. So it really, molecular toxicology is really an exciting lesson, because you will learn how to, you have got to know a lot of things that you don't know, and you will be warned, you will be reminded about what you eat and what you don't have to eat, in order for us to be healthy, in order to for us to be more to have a longer life siguro, because 'di ba, so our primary concern now is to really have a healthy life. We want to be healthy all the time, because when we got if we want if we got sick, of course, we might really be worrying if it's COVID or not, ganun. So if it's not COVID, so maybe our immune system also is compromised, and we might be um vulnerable, so to be infected with COVID. So I guess and it's the healthy lifestyle that we should really be observing, so that we can really have a strong immune system, strong then the defense against many viruses and bacteria. So we want a longer life actually. So yeah, so this is one of the most interesting lesson that you can learn in the molecular toxicology. Learn. So yeah, that's it. Another thing is the ecological information. So um, how environmental how environmentally friendly the chemical is. If it's a if it if it's biodegradable, so how to dispose the product so it does not remain in soil, etc. And there's all the information also that you don't have to release it into surface waters. Okay, so the detergent can cause unsightly rivers and may affect water waterproofing or of water birds. Okay, so that's it may cause it may interrupt the food chain, food web, because many birds will die, or fishes may die. It may cause fish kill, and the coral reefs may also be destroyed. So ganon. So it also contains like that. So you really have the all the information in the MSDS. That is why it is called material safety data sheet. So it is not just uh give you information how to protect yourself, but also the other people and also the environment. Ganon. So it also contains the disposal consideration, of course, because if your chemicals is volatile, of course you don't have to carelessly throw it out into the sink and just leave it there and just be um not worried about how did you discard it, but you have to consider the the composition of your chemicals that you're handling. Okay, so don't do that. So you have to use suitable PPE, and then rinse out containers if there are chemicals that should be deleted first before discarded into into the sink. And there are also chemicals that are volatile and strong acids that should not be allowed to enter into drains, of course, no. And to dispose, you have to dispose it according to local regulations. Okay, so there are also chemicals that should also be um, placed only in a reagent bottle, and then it should not be discarded sa mga waste sinks, because it will really give a it may give harm, or it may produce harmful effects to the environment or into the sea. So yon, uh, yun yung consequence natin if we are really not observing the proper waste disposal of your chemicals. So do not also mix with other waste because it may also cause chemical reaction and you may explode, or it may also cause fire, ganon. So that's not, you have to know your MSDS first before disposing your chemicals. So yeah, it's not as formidable as it sounds. So I think it's really self-explanatory, and it also gives transport information and how the substance are being transported and how it should be packed in order for to ensure safety. Of course, because if there is shaking or agitation, it may cause a fire also. So sa mga ubang chemicals that are volatile. So yun, it is only applicable to larger quantities. So there's also regulatory information, just like the toxicological information or the hazard information. So there are many risk phrases, examples. So R1 is explosive when dry, risk of explosion by shock, friction, and so on and so forth. So yun ang kanyang categories depending on the risk. Okay, so there are many other information that you can have. Okay, so in a summary, remember that MSDS are not risk assessments. So it really just give you an information about the product, about the identification of the product, about the chemical structure, about its physical and chemical properties, and also it gives you warning about how to handle it properly. It also gives you toxicological information, hazard information, and others. So they make no distinction between a gram and a ton of a substance. So in wala siyang gano, but it also just give you the natural property of what can it cause when mishandled, and it might cause an accident. So when using substances, you must carry out a risk assessment, but use the information in MSDS to help you. And controls should be proportional at risk. So the MSDS is varied depending on the supplier and the manufacturer. So some are comprehensive, some are not. So you should have to also look for the other information in the internet so that you have a holistic information or orientation of the product you're handling. Especially dapat ano din na the supplier that you have okay, the manufacturer that the chemicals you purchase is the same MSDS that you have to get it online, or kung wala man talaga silang binigay na MSDS. If in doubt, always consult an expert. So may mga chemists, may mga teachers tayo, professors, and even our project leaders, you have to consult them about the things that you must do in order to be safe and be protected. Okay, so that's for the pre-lab, and I think this is not a wet lab na mga sa inyo ha, but this is a computer works. So learning outcomes of this, or the objective of this exercise, is to write chemical and structural formulas of common substances with alleged effects on the environment. And second is to describe their occurrences, distribution, and characteristics in nature. So the procedure is that you have to search the web of the MSDS of the following chemicals. Okay, this is 10, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 chemicals that you have to search on the web. It's MSDS, the phosphine, arsenic, so on and so forth. And then you have to write the following found in the MSDS of each chemical, okay, such as the product information, specifically the product identifier, the chemical formula. Second is the hazardous ingredients. Third is the physical data, the reactivity data, and the toxicological properties. So you have to provide a simple discussion, just simple, it's just a brief about the categories found in MSDS and which chemicals. Okay, so along with this, this is the categories. Ito yun, yung 5 lang. Actually, marami talaga information doon um, sa MSDS, but ito lang 5. So it's just a brief, simple discussion about the category. So what's the purpose of the product information? Bakit andyan ang hazardous ingredients, the physical data, the reactivity data, and the toxicological properties. So, and then fourth is you have to cite your references. Okay, so that's it. And then the guide questions for the after the simple discussion, you have to write all what you have to obtain all the information, and then you have to discuss simply what is the purpose of that um, section of the MSDS, the 5 sections that I mentioned it kanina. So you have, after the discussion, you have to um, answer the questions here. Okay, there are 3 questions. Number 1, working in the laboratory needs many safety precautions to do. What are the precautionary measures you should take before using any chemical for your thesis? Okay, and the second one, what is the relevance of fire or explosion data of a chemical written in the material safety data sheet? And then the last one, what are the problems in MSDS? Cite 5 problems. Okay, that's the questions you have to include it in your lab report. I guess I also give you na the format of your lab report. So after 2 weeks, you have to submit this lab report. Okay, so yun ang ating first exercise. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this pre-recorded video. I hope that you have to you listen this one and you watch this so that you can really now start your lab report. So I will now stop share class, and I hope you have a good week as you start attending your classes online, even though it's virtual. But I hope that you are motivated. You have to seek motivation in your heart to do it with all your mind, with all your heart. And I hope that you are doing well in your at home, and you have to stay healthy and safe. It's not so practice social distancing, and you have to wash your hands properly after you have gone out, or you bought from the outside something, you did a market, you did groceries, ganun. So always keep your mind safe and be alert in all these things, because the pandemic is not yet it will not end yet, because of course there are many variants na mag-develop, and I guess that's the nature of the virus. We just have to adjust. Okay, so the virus will adjust to its mutation, but we will also adjust also with our lives, because we are more have the authority than the virus over our lives. So that's it. So although it changed the way we are now living right now, but there is still hope. You can still study because of the internet connection. I hope you have a good internet connection also, class. So I hope that you have provisions in your house, that you have good internet connection, and also it also meron ding cell site. So yun yung problema natin dito sa Leyte, and many are also in the Negros part. So good for you, to those who have stable internet connection. So I require all of you to attend the next class for the exercise 2. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, class, and I hope you will have a good week. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much. God bless.